Topic is going to be along the theme of navigating the future of dairy. So, welcome everybody. And I know we're just waiting for a few folks to log in. So, on our welcome page, we have upcoming events. So, you will see that we have a topic on rumen biochemistry on our July webinar. And then in August, Sarah and I will be covering a topic on our project, which included looking at management in calf and heifer practices in New England. So for those of you just joining us, welcome. Today's topic is going to be dairy consumer trends and dairy checkoff in the Northeast. And we have some exciting speakers to talk with us today. So we're going to get started here. So for those of you who haven't attended webinars before, the Tri-State Dairy team is comprised of folks from Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. And our goal is to advance dairy management and shared industry challenges through collaborative educational programs such as this one across Northern New England. Our team consists of specialists in each of these states. So myself in Maine, Sarah Allen in New Hampshire, and Whitney and Amber in Vermont. And we have a lot of exciting events, so I'll let Amber talk through some of those.
Good morning. In June in New Hampshire, June and July, there will be silvopasture twilight meetings. On July 1st, there will be a mid-season corn evaluation in Colebrook. July 9th, mastering body condition score for beef cattle in Columbia. July 19th, tractor maintenance workshop. And August 13th, mark your calendar for forage analysis and beef nutrition basics in Jefferson. You can view all of these upcoming events at the UNH Extension events list website listed here below. In Vermont, we've got a couple of pretty exciting events coming up later in July and August. On Thursday, July 24th, you can join the UVM Extension Northwest Crops and Soils program team at our research facility in Alburgh, Vermont for our annual field day. This year's theme is Growing for Tomorrow and highlights cutting-edge research and practical innovations that are shaping the future of agriculture. Our team is excited to share timely updates on impactful projects that address both today's challenges and tomorrow's opportunities. The day will feature speakers, workshops, and a guided tour of our Border View research farm. And you'll hear the latest findings on a diverse range of topics, including hemp, flax, strawberries, vegetables, dry beans, forages, soil health, and a whole lot more. There are some exhibitor and sponsor spots still available. If you want to reserve a table, you can reach out to us through our website, and pre-registration is required before July 21st. Also upcoming in Northern Vermont on August 19th from 9:30 to 2 o'clock, the UVM Extension Dairy Team in collaboration with Stonyfield Organic will be hosting an in-person workshop and tour of 2 Franklin County dairy farms using automated milking systems. The workshop will offer a hands-on look at these 2 different robotic milking setups, and the producers will share their experiences transitioning to automation, including decision points, robotic milking unit selection, facilities design and modification, herd management changes, and lessons they learned throughout the process. It's a free workshop with lunch provided, but you'll need to register for that as well. And I'll drop the registration links for both of those events into the chat in just a few minutes here. This month's featured podcast is Cornell Cow Convos. It's a monthly podcast series led by the Pro Dairy team and dairy specialists at Cornell, featuring current, new, and emerging topics of interest in the dairy industry. New episodes are released the last Thursday of the month, and I was just looking for some of the most recent topics. They've done some great podcast episodes on HPAI and avian influenza in the dairy industry, as well as there's one on the microbiome of dairy cows and persevering through high stress situations. It's a great podcast to check out and have on your radar. I think with that, we'll be turning it over to Abby.
Great. Let me get that screen share going. All right. Hopefully everyone's seeing that okay. Lovely. All right. So hello and welcome, and thank you for allowing me to take a bit of your time today. I hope to make it worthwhile. So my name is Abby Korhonen, and I am part of DMI, the Strategic Intelligence team, and I've been asked to take you through a few consumer trends today. So I've likely prepared a bit more than we'll have time to cover today. So I'll take you through the state of the consumer, shifting consumer demands, dairy trends, and future predictions, but I may leave the dairy product launches for your independent leisure reading for another time. But I will certainly have this deck for you all available. So if you feel the need to take note, do know that this will be available for you after. And if you only walk away with a few points, I hope that these are what stick with you. That would be that economic concerns are having a major impact on what consumers want and where they buy. The fact that consumers' perception of health is changing, and it's about prevention and taking a holistic approach. Protein continues to reign, and innovation in dairy is focused on functional benefits. And then the cost of healthcare is driving consumers to take a more proactive approach to their health and well-being. So again, we're going to go into detail on each of those points. All right, so now let's jump into our first topic on demographic shifts. So this is likely not new news for many of you, but we continue to see that the US population growth rates are declining, and this is the result of the younger generation not having as many kids, as well as less immigration. And I even saw a headline recently that the US was even considering a baby bonus incentive. So clearly it's an important topic at the highest level, even within our government, in terms of the implications of what this reduction in population could cause. And to that mention, the domino effect of a slowing birth rate is a disproportionately aging population. So by 2040, those that are age 65 and above are projected to double from what they were in 2000. And by 2030, all baby boomers will be age 65 plus. So that is a significant shift from where we are today. And one other domino effect of this, of an aging population, is the impact on the economy. So that would be reduced economic growth, the impact on the labor force and the talent gap, the healthcare implications, as well as retirement considerations. And I am not a Debbie Downer. I'm sorry. I know that's a lot of heaviness right there, but it is the state of today. So I just wanted to keep it real for us all. So next up, we have what's happening with the economy and consumers' value perception as a result. So first off, I acknowledge there is a lot going on this slide, but for very broad strokes, what I would ask you to take away from here is there are fewer job openings, consumers' confidence has dropped, inflation is up, as is credit card debt. And with all of that, we have a bit of a perfect storm of volatility, which we all are likely feeling ourselves as well. And as a result of those factors, consumers are spending more on food, whether it's from retail or food service. And here we see that in 2024, 60% of consumer spend was happening in retail, and food occasions sourced in home was up versus food service, which was flat versus a year ago. And by the way, if you guys have questions as I go about the data, feel free to jump in. I'm not monitoring the chat, but you can certainly come off mute if you need. Okay. So here we see another visualization in a slightly different way, still looking at retail data in purple versus food service data in pink, but this time based on price on the left-hand side and volume on the right. And overall, the higher cost of eating out at food service is leading consumers to buy more at retail, which is showing us that food service volumes are declining. So much like a scale, consumers are trying to find that balance given the economic factors with food cost and convenience. And right now, food cost is certainly winning over convenience. And consumers will even tell you that directly. So here we see 84% of consumers are perceiving prices as higher than they would expect across all demographics. And nearly 50% say that they are extremely concerned about food cost inflation. And as a result, they are looking for value, and they're finding it by making more trips to Walmart and dollar and club stores and fewer trips to restaurant and grocery and convenience stores, as you might expect. And we can see examples of how this is coming through in retail and food service as they are trying to lure consumers in with value offerings. So last year, for example, Walmart launched their Better Good private label brand marketed as affordable gourmet. So you see that in the center there. And at the beginning of this year, McDonald's relaunched their value menu. So you see that on the right-hand side, which many of their competitors like Taco Bell were already doing. So everyone is getting on board and understanding the importance of that value offering. Now, shifting gears a bit, I'm going to take you into what I'm calling the best of both worlds. So one thing continues to hold true when it comes to food and beverage, and that is it has to taste good. Of all of the purchase drivers over time, you will see taste is at the very top, followed by price, followed by healthfulness. But we also know that consumers would like to have the best of both worlds. So with food and beverage, they want that which satisfies both their cravings, but also offers some form of a health benefit in order to try to get to that equilibrium of that overall well-being. So that explains why we're increasingly seeing examples of indulgent yet healthy twists. So here are a couple examples. At the top there, you see Nick's ice cream, which is offered through Instacart and a few others, which has nutritional callouts of low carb, low calorie, and no sugar added, but is still an ice cream and indulgent in that way. And given inflation is pushing a lot of consumers to cook at home, we see a lot of homemade ice cream hacks, such as cottage cheese ice cream with high protein ice cream made with the Ninja Creamy using Fairlife milk, for example. So whether it's in retail or made at home, we are seeing consumers trying to merge that healthy yet indulgent. And this even extends to the rarer occasions of when consumers are eating out. So while they are satisfying a craving when they are going out to food service as their top need, we do see that that better for you reason for dining out is creeping up in that second spot as to why they are eating out and away from home. So as you can see, that desire for the best of the both worlds is playing out in a lot of ways across both retail and food service, and it's a trend we continue to see and continue to keep an eye on. So now I'm going to take us into another consumer trend related to healthy aging. So worth mentioning, this, what I'm going to take you through is a snippet of a much larger deep dive that my team recently completed just within the last few months. So if you would like to learn more on this topic, certainly feel free to reach out to me, but just wanted you to know this is a smaller section of a much larger piece of work, so I can certainly share more. But just to level set on why we're even talking about healthy aging as a trend here, healthy aging is a highly desirable health benefit. It is second only to energy, which we can all universally agree we probably don't have enough of, with over 70% of consumers saying that it plays a big role in their lifestyle today. So it just goes to show how important it is for consumers, and increasingly so. And healthy aging is not just an older person's concern. It is a top concern across ages because of a desire to remain active in older age. So Different ages at different life stages do have different needs. So I make call outs in the larger body of work about generational needs and conditions that they are facing. But very broadly speaking, it is safe to say that healthy aging is a desire across the generations, no matter one's age. So consumers are increasingly feeling that they can influence how well they age. And it's no wonder that therefore they are becoming increasingly proactive about it. So here you can see 73% say that they are being proactive about their health, with 81% saying food and beverage play an important part in how they are going about it. So that's the food and beverage side of things. They recognize that there is even more that they can improve to do with vitality. So we talked about food and beverage, but here you can see a handful of other strategies to improve one's longevity and vitality. So that is everything from what you eat and drink, what supplements you take, what medications, how you exercise, if you exercise, your sleep, your health tracking, your medical care. So there are a multitude of ways that consumers are going about this. And it's also worth noting that there are a lot of consumers that are looking to add or avoid elements in their diet in the interest of healthy aging. So on the right-hand side, you can see I've highlighted the nutrients that they are looking to add in their diet, which would include protein, fiber, whole grains, healthy fats. And then on the flip side of that, when we're looking at what they are looking to reduce or avoid, we see that that includes sugar, soda, salt, fat, and alcohol. But I think it's really interesting to note on the left-hand side there, that gold circle, 60% of consumers are reading the nutritional facts on any new food or beverage item that they buy. So they are looking for nutritionals. They are looking to add certain nutrients. They are looking to avoid certain nutrients. There's a lot of complexity in all of the factors that they are considering when it comes to food and beverage and healthy aging. I also took a look at the top ingredients across some of the most common related health conditions when it comes to healthy aging. And here you can see I pulled 5 examples of those health conditions based on the ANOVA database of top ingredients included to address those conditions. So for example, with gut health, you can see some of the top ingredients included in products related to gut health would be green tea, kombucha, soluble fiber. I'm going to try to not pronounce all these mushrooms. They're difficult, but you get the gist. And then I hope that you pick up the theme as you read across that there is collagen showing up as a key healthy aging ingredient across a multitude of these conditions. And that is also an excellent relationship between collagen, which has the health halo, with protein, and protein being associated with helping with mobility and bone and joint health and muscle health. So I hope you take this away as an opportunity and a thought starter of how collagen would make sense to be included in dairy products that seek to address healthy aging across a multitude of related conditions. And not only are consumers looking at all of those various factors that we spoke to, but they are also considering how processed the items are that they are looking for. So they want it to be minimally processed with ingredients that they recognize, with a short list of ingredients on the label. And all of those qualities cue consumers into thinking that it is a fresh product, it is a pure product, and it has better nutrient density. So that's a lot for consumers to be considering in terms of what they are buying whenever it is that they're buying something related to healthy aging. And it is likely a food, a beverage, or a supplement, and it has to be minimally processed. It has to meet those nutritional requirements. It's a lot. It's a lot for consumers to be considering all of these factors. So next up, I am going to take us into dairy product trends, what's happening out there today. And as you will imagine, protein is a big piece of it, and I'll also walk us through a little bit when it comes to claims. So certainly not new news to any of us, I would imagine. but protein is still highly desirable for consumers. So here we see over 10% of food service meals are described by consumers as high protein, which according to Circana is the fastest growing food descriptor that they have seen in recent years. And it's also interesting to see how protein is showing up in the market and how it's evolving to become more part of everyday nutrition. It's not just a fitness supplement in the way that it had been in the past. So here we see a few examples of recent product launches from brands such as Chobani that are touting high protein in convenient formats for everyday routine. Or down to the bottom right-hand side, we also see examples from Legendary Foods launching, for example, protein chips and interesting flavors that are meant to just be a literal swap for everyday food items such as Hot Pockets or tortilla chips. And then when we take a higher level view, so here we are looking at Circana data, we see that protein and digestion, so for example, pre and probiotics, are some of the fastest growing claims in the broader food and beverage space. And also the avoidance of sugar, hormones, antibiotics, and lactose are growing. So those have been growing, continue to grow. Not particularly new news, but just good to know that that's a continuing trend. And then when we look a little bit more specifically at dairy, we see that lactose-free, low sugar, and digestive claims are alive and well, and protein continues to be within the top 10. So very similar findings to that broader food and beverage happening in the dairy space specifically as well. So I mentioned to you, I have a whole section on recent product launches in the dairy space. Given time constraints, I'm going to flip through those very, very quickly. Again, I will have all this detail for you for your reading pleasure on another date. But just so that you can see, there are examples here of high protein, low sugar launches, new innovation in terms of functional benefits such as digestive health, mental health, probiotic, lactose-free, fortified offerings, and then innovation in mind and body benefits, and even innovation in terms of portion sizing, single serve, and shareable. But what I have for us for the remainder of my time is a look to the future. So one of the asks for a topic for us to discuss is, what does that 5 to 10 year look like for us in the future? And according to ANOVA, which is one of our primary data sets, one of the biggest macro forces that will impact us in the future are health factors, which are a major concern for consumers today and will continue to be so. Such factors are things like affordable healthcare, healthy food access, and lack of good healthcare. So put that all together, there is this broad health concern of consumers, lack of affordable, healthy, nutritious food, and lack of health care that are making them get creative about how they're thinking about their health and how they're managing it. So as a result of those factors that I just mentioned, consumers are trying to engage in healthier, nutritious diets to live healthier and avoid the need for healthcare altogether. But they are up against some significant amounts of ultra-processed food temptation, which, according to ANOVA, account for nearly 50 to 60% of the food offerings. And the challenge of even finding healthy food options can be very difficult for some. And while we were just speaking to the physical side of health, we also need to consider the mental side and how the two are intertwined. So I thought the quote in the middle here was quite impactful. What we think and how we feel are the same. And the impact of stress on the body is a great example I found on the right-hand side, or even how depression increases the risk of other chronic conditions. So we cannot dismiss the implications of how mental and physical are intertwined. And in the future, the consideration of mental health and the linkage to physical health will certainly continue to grow. I thought this was really interesting. I wasn't aware of this prior to digging into this topic. Earlier, there was mention of the lack of healthcare options for many. There is an increasing trend towards home health management with companies such as Tenovi here, offering connected systems that allow consumers to take measurements at home and then allow medical monitoring off-site. So measurements include weight, blood pressure, and blood glucose, for example. They can take those measurements at home, and that data can be transferred for off-site monitoring. And very much in that same theme, consumers are also becoming more accustomed to self-monitoring with new products such as Evie and Philips Sonicare AI toothbrush. Who knew we needed an AI toothbrush? That provide real-time data and personalized recommendations so that they can make their own data-driven health decisions to the most minute level. And then if we look even a bit further out, there is a lot of work happening when it comes to aging. So by 2050, 1 in 6 people worldwide are going to be over 65, and that is going to drive a significant demand in the food and beverage product space for products that support health span across age groups. So that is a space that we are continuing to watch and anticipate. And in the middle column there's that personal intelligence piece. So consumers are increasingly prioritizing their value-aligned purchases, and AI advisors are anticipated to analyze brands and make product offerings based on driving trust and loyalty in the market. So there's a lot of questions of how AI will impact the industry and how we will interact with it and what recommendations it will make to us. And then last but not least, on the right-hand side, we have information integrity. And that's all about misinformation and distrust, which will continue to challenge consumers' understanding and thinking about what is true, particularly when it comes to food and what food company information is provided. So there could be the potential for a lot of collaboration with third-party experts to build credibility, increase transparency, counter false claims, to address misinformation in the future. So those were a little bit of even higher level and further out there potential trends to consider. So to wrap it all up with a bow for us, I have a little jaded here on the last slide because state of the consumer, fewer kids, we're getting old, everything's expensive. Value certainly still very much matters to all of us. When it comes to shifting consumer demand, we want our cake, we want to eat it too. So that is that desire for both crave-worthy but yet healthy. And then also taking more of that proactive approach to our health. When it comes to dairy trends, again, protein still very hot, anticipated to continue to be so, as well as a lot happening in the functional space. And then future predictions, health and wellness, top of mind now, a major concern now, and will continue to be so. I did want to leave with just one little gift from Madeline Daly, who's normally the one who has presented to you guys in the past, I believe. She did a little bit of a data poll and wanted to give me a shout out to the Maine folks. She said that the latest market data, which you guys see here, is very positive for dairy sales trends and continue to do so. She just wanted me to give a shout out and say how impressive it was. And I thought that might be a beautiful transition to more of the regional talk. But with that, I just wanted to say thank you again for allowing me to join this session, and I hope to be able to do so again in the future.
Thanks, Abby. That was great, and a great transition over to myself. I appreciate that. Madeline has been to Maine before and presented in person, and it is fun to be in a room and have people get excited about the amount of dairy that's being consumed in your little state. So thanks for that, and you can thank Madeline for us too. I'm Sarah Littlefield. I'm the executive director of the Maine Dairy Promotion Board and the Maine Dairy Nutrition Council, one of 2 local dairy checkoffs that work on your behalf in partnership with Dairy Management Inc., where Abby is from. So I will just very quickly take some of the points that Abby made and tell you how we use them locally, and then we'll turn it over to Alicia, who can talk to you about the other New England states. We all work really closely all together, but we do have our own separate regions and work on behalf of our farmers within our regions. So some of the things that Abby talked about, the taste, price, health kind of mentality of what is preferred by our consumers. So we utilize that kind of mindset as we go out and talk to consumers and look at the program that we do locally. One of our largest programs is just improving the taste of that nutritious product in schools. So we go into schools and provide equipment in cafeterias for dairy to be served in a better fashion, so that the experience that students are having with that is creating lifelong dairy, hopefully dairy enthusiasts. I don't know if they all are as enthusiastic as we are, but we hope they are. And then we also take some of that data that Abby gave you about consumers, trying to meet consumers where they are and have those conversations about what is the nutrition of the dairy products. And then just encourage them to either consume more of the products that they already love or help them find products that fit what they're looking for in their dietary goals. And that's how we kind of handle all of this data. And Maine, Abby, you give us so much to think about. And every time I hear, I've heard your presentation twice now, and I still have more to think about, even having heard it twice. So I will turn it over to Alicia from New England Dairy.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. So I do have a presentation, so I will start sharing. Can you all just see the slides? You're not seeing presenter view? Perfect. So as Sarah noted, my name is Alicia Pincenalt. I'm our Farmer Relations Manager for New England Dairy. I've been with New England Dairy for about 3 years now and live in Vermont. So I work with farmers to understand the impact and the value of their investment in dairy checkoff and provide direct support for them in communicating with consumers and telling their positive dairy stories. So New England Dairy has been serving and working alongside New England dairy farmers for over 100 years. Our goal is to champion New England dairy farm families and the nutritious foods that they produce. Our staff consists of 18 registered dietitians and marketing communications professionals who collectively bring over 200 years of experience to their roles, working on behalf of farmers. You can see that we cover 5 New England states. We also work with farmers in Eastern New York, because as we know, New England is a milk deficit region, so we rely on milk from New York to fill people's cups. We reach in total about 13.2 million consumers across these 5 states, including a lot of work in schools. And we are overseen by a 11-person board of directors who are dairy farmers. So I think this ties into a lot of what Sarah and Abby have both said. Collectively, through Checkoff, dairy farmers invest 15 cents per hundredweight of milk produced for dairy promotion. 10 cents stays locally in organizations like New England Dairy and Maine Dairy Promotion. There are 16 of us across the country, which you can see on this map. And we work closely with DMI, which is the National Checkoff Program, who receives 5 cents of your 15-cent investment. And just wanted to know that there are other programs beyond these 16 who can accept dairy promotion funding, but they're not members of UDIA, which means that they don't work closely with DMI and don't have access to those same resources like Maine and New England Dairy do. We definitely leverage DMI in a lot of ways across states and regions. We work together. We work together on planning. We get a lot of the research and insights like Abby shared, which influence our local work. So it definitely is a relationship that goes both ways, and we both benefit. So our work supports 2 strategic goals around building trust and driving sales in dairy. Below you can see our target audiences, which really align with when Abby's talking about who we should be marketing milk to. It's really these folks for a lot of different reasons. So teens and young adults, parents of young children, we know that they're making decisions for younger children in their home, and then thought leaders who are making recommendations to consumers. You might be wondering, where do dairy farmers fit in here? And the answer is really everywhere. We communicate with farmers about the investment and their investment into Checkoff, but also we try to activate farmers and include them in our work whenever possible. So these audiences really align with who Abby noted that we're trying to reach collectively. Our organization, and I know Maine has a similar kind of structure, works within 4 key priority areas, which is youth wellness, sustainable nutrition and research, consumer education and engagement, and farmer relations. Schools are an important channel for us to build trust and drive sales in. We do this in a variety of ways, including equipment grants, so for things like bulk milk or smoothies, so things that we know will hopefully drive dairy sales and increase participation in school meals. Last year, we provided grants to 57 schools and community organizations, and early sales data shows about a 10% increase in dairy sales in granted schools. So that's one way that we're working to drive sales. We also do a lot with trust around keeping milk cold and trainings in that area. Our sustainable nutrition and research team works with health and wellness professionals to do outreach and education. They provide a lot of science-based delivery, or they deliver, sorry, a lot of science-based resources and materials so that these audiences can feel comfortable recommending real dairy. So we do a lot around plant-based alternatives and what's in your cup and the health benefits of real dairy. We also work with DMI to place researchers focused on real dairy benefits at conferences across our region, including those from like UNH and other state land grant universities. For consumer education and engagement, we know that most people are several generations removed from their local dairy farm now, and that lack of connection can really create misconceptions around dairy farming and practices. So we really try to bring farmer stories front and center around topics like animal care, cropping, milk safety, and more, which we know consumers care about. So our marketing communications team communicates with the public and engages with the public by offering in-person and virtual farm tours and other consumer engagement events. And we have our mobile dairy bar, which you can see here, which we bring to community events and sample milk and cheese and other dairy products out of. We also do a lot digitally with writing blogs, placing positive media stories, posting social media content. And we have about 34 events that we're going to attend this year throughout the region so far, with more being added. So if we are in your community, I definitely encourage you to stop by and see us. And then the final piece here, in addition to our farm relations work, which I'll touch on, is just driving dairy sales, both virtually and in person. So this includes our e-commerce work that we do through Instacart, which builds off of DMI's investment. And we typically have 3 to 4 campaigns each year. So last year's e-commerce campaigns generated about $590,000 in dairy sales. So that's dollars that we can directly attribute to Checkoff's investment to drive sales, which is nice to be able to have those numbers. DMI also invests in e-commerce to amplify existing dairy messaging. So for example, during the Super Bowl, Instacart had placed an ad that prominently featured dairy, and DMI amplified this messaging to bring dairy front and center, connecting the ad to the commercial, which you can see here. I'm sure everyone had like all the fun brands from the past, and they asked if you had dairy in the. Did you remember the milk? And then there's this little cow driving this motorcycle back to the store because they did indeed forget the milk. And then last but certainly not least is our farmer relations work. So in addition to involving dairy farmers in our work, we also provide support directly for dairy farmers. This includes things like media support, crisis management, and communication trainings for farmers, as well as supporting them in grassroots dairy promotion work through our dairy promotion grant program. And our farm relations team works closely with industry partners like Extension, our co-ops, watershed groups, and others to make sure that we're showing up for dairy farmers. And finally, New England Dairy and DMI and Maine also have excellent resources for you to learn more about your investment in dairy promotion and what resources exist for you, including free dairy promotion materials to order, farm tour resources, and more. We also have newsletters. So if you're not signed up for those, I definitely encourage you to visit our websites and to sign up. Because we know a lot of the times farmers want to know more about their investment in Checkoff, but they just don't maybe know where to go to get that information. So hopefully, if people are asking, you can pass this along or sign up yourself. And of course, if you have any questions directly about our work in New England, I would love to hear from you. So I think with that, we're gonna probably turn it back over to Glenda.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alicia. That was awesome. We waited until the end of the session for a question and answer, and we'd love to hear from folks in the audience. You can also use the chat box and share there as well, but that's going to be how we spend the next couple of minutes, and then we'll sort of wrap up. So while folks brainstorm some questions, I wanted to just have you guys all share in the chat box, if you could, ways to find your events. I know we just had events here in Maine that were offered to the public, and so some of those events have passed. But a quick way for folks to just find what's happening locally, if you could. And additionally, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate how you touched up on, Alicia, the food safety aspect of this, and then getting the interest from kids in schools, because we know that's where the education starts, and then they take that information home and they can sort of they have research-based information to share with the folks at home. So I really like that aspect, and think that this is why this is a really important part of our checkoff program. So I appreciate you guys.
Glenda, I would say that if there aren't any questions right now, that's okay. And if there are questions that come up, if you're watching this, also like the recording of this, you can always reach out to any of us. We can help you get answers. Hopefully, by hearing what Abby had to say today and what Alicia told you about all of our programs, just spark like ideas or thoughts. And if it's not even a question, but you just want to learn more about something or participate in something with any of our organizations, you can reach out to ask to do that as well.
Yeah, thank you. No, that was great. And then before you head out, I just wanted to mention to folks that we will be coming back on Wednesday, July 30th for our next webinar. It's going to be with Kurt Kotench. Kotench. I said that very incorrectly, and I apologize. But we're going to be learning about a little bit about the rumen, and I'm really excited about this topic because we're talking about the product here today, right? That was the focus of our webinar. But now we're going to learn a little bit more about how we get from, forage, using the ruminant to get this really nutritious product. So we're excited for that topic, and we hope folks can join in. And then Sue did add in the survey link into the chat box if folks could. These surveys just help us understand if you're liking the content or if we need to, have other topic suggestions. And we'd appreciate it if you could fill those out as well. So thanks everybody for joining today, and we look forward to seeing you next month.